is a definition or an argument which is just self-proving, which is another term is circular logic. So for example, if I say in a motion, this house would like to legalize gay marriage, and I say we want to legalize gay marriage so that when it's legal, it's correct, because if it's not correct, then it's illegal. Therefore, we must legalize it to make it more correct, right? So it's a definition that gives you nothing at all or no information at all about what I mean by legalizing gay marriage, which is, so if you are in opposition to that team, you might have to ask points of clarification to really get me to explain what I really mean by legalizing gay marriage. Because the definition that I just gave you was close to useless, because it doesn't give you any clue as to what I will be doing, because it's entirely just circular in the way it was presented. Does that make sense? So it's illegal, we need to legalize it, because if it's not legal, then it's bad. Once we legalize it, it's good, so we must legalize it, because otherwise it's illegal. It's very confusing, yeah. But so if you are confused, you should ask points of clarification, because chances are that's probably a tautological definition. Truistic definitions are definitions that are by nature just true. So for example, an example of a truistic statement would be normally the sun rises from the east, right? You can't debate that because in most worlds that's true. So if you have definitions like that, it again doesn't provide you any context to what the definition of the debate would be. So as an opposition, you can challenge that and ask for more clarification for them to explain in more detail what they mean when they say that. A squirrel. So a squirrel is probably truistic and tautological definitions are usually very hard to come by, so most teams get past that already, so those problems you won't occur. What you will hear more often is a squirrel debate. So a squirrel definition is basically definitions that purposefully misinterprets the motion. And so with the example that I just gave you with the adoption of dogs, that's purposefully misinterpreting the motion so that the debate doesn't occur. You can challenge those types of definitions. Another example we've seen where debaters deliberately misinterprets the motion so that they avoid the real debate and debate something that they want instead is a motion about this house would legalize, this house believes that gambling is good. And the government team defines gambling as taking part in the stock market, because it's almost like gambling, right? So that's an entirely different debate, stock market debate, as opposed to a real gambling debate where people go into casinos. And so if you hear any of those definitions that misinterprets the motion or doesn't define the motion in the spirit that the motion is supposed to be debated about, then you can make challenges to that. The next one is unfair place set and time set. So debates are supposed to, the context of the debate is supposed to be reasonable enough so that the average intelligent individual can engage in those debates. So what that means is you can't unfairly place set or time set the debate. So for example, an unfair place set would be if I have a motion about this house supports the death penalty, and the government team is an expert, let's say, in knowing that there's this very small village in Fiji where the death penalty has been very effective, and they debate about only in the context of that small village in Fiji where the death penalty has these realities where there are these things that they can talk about. So that's an unfair place set, because you can't expect the average reasonable individual to be able to engage with the context of a small village in Fiji, right?